The first thing I noticed was not the woman standing outside my tent in the cold mountain air of Montana. It was the sleeping bag hanging over her shoulder, as if she had already accepted that the night had nowhere else to place her. The campground had emptied before sunset after a storm warning spread across western Montana, and by the time darkness settled over the pine forest, only my small green tent remained beneath the towering trees. When the zipper rustled and I looked outside, I found a stranger with tired blue eyes, rain-soaked hair, and a quiet expression that carried more heartbreak than fear. She simply asked if she could stay there for the night because every nearby campsite had closed after the storm damaged several trails, and she had nowhere safe to go before the heavy rain arrived. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue sharing stories that remind us how powerful simple acts of humanity can be. My name is Nathan, and I had been living a life that looked peaceful from the outside but felt painfully empty inside. After losing my construction business during a difficult economic downturn and watching my marriage quietly fall apart, I had begun spending weekends camping across the United States, hoping the silence of nature would answer questions my heart never could. That particular weekend, I had driven into the mountains searching for solitude, believing I needed to be alone to heal. Instead, fate placed someone else's struggle directly in front of mine. The woman's name was Rebecca. She explained that she had been hiking alone after leaving Seattle in search of a fresh beginning. She had recently lost her nursing position while caring full-time for her late father during his final illness. The responsibilities had consumed her savings, and when he passed away, she realized she no longer knew where home truly was. Camping across national parks had become her way of finding peace before deciding what came next. The storm arrived faster than either of us expected. Strong winds bent the tall pines while rain hammered against the tent like thousands of tiny stones. We carefully rearranged our backpacks so both of us could fit inside without feeling crowded. Hours passed with stories replacing silence. We spoke about disappointments we had never shared with anyone else, about dreams abandoned because life demanded survival before happiness. I realized that loneliness often disappears not because our circumstances improve, but because another person chooses to listen without judgment. By morning the storm had flooded several roads, trapping campers until emergency crews reopened the area. Rebecca and I volunteered alongside park rangers, helping elderly visitors carry supplies and assisting families whose tents had been damaged overnight. Watching her comfort frightened children with gentle smiles reminded me why she had once become a nurse. She possessed the rare ability to make anxious people believe everything would eventually be okay. The more I watched her help complete strangers despite carrying so much pain herself, the more I understood that broken hearts can still become places where hope grows. After the campground reopened, we parted ways without making unrealistic promises. We exchanged phone numbers, wished each other well, and drove toward different highways. Yet some encounters refused to remain ordinary memories. Over the following months we stayed in touch through simple messages, encouraging each other through job interviews, difficult days, and small victories. Rebecca eventually accepted a position at a community health clinic in Idaho, while I slowly rebuilt my contracting business by taking modest renovation projects instead of chasing impossible ambitions. Neither of us rescued the other. Instead, we reminded one another that healing often begins when someone believes we are still worth knowing. Nearly a year later, I returned to that same Montana campground. This time I wasn't searching for escape. I was there because Rebecca had suggested meeting again where everything unexpectedly began. The forest looked different beneath clear summer skies, yet the feeling was strangely familiar. We walked the same trail that had once been covered with fallen branches after the storm. We laughed about how impossible it had seemed that two strangers could trust each other inside one tiny tent during the worst weather either of us had experienced. Looking back, it wasn't courage that had changed our lives. It was kindness offered without expecting anything in return. If this story has touched your heart so far, please help it reach someone who may be carrying invisible burdens today. Your like, your share, and your support allows stories of hope to travel farther than we ever could alone. Before this story comes to an end, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us about a moment when the kindness of a stranger changed your life, or when you chose to help someone without expecting anything back. Your story might become the encouragement another viewer desperately needs today. Rebecca often says that people remember storms because they reveal what truly matters after the clouds disappear. I believe she is right. That unforgettable night in the mountains never became a love story simply because two lonely people met. It became something far more meaningful. It proved that compassion can arrive quietly, carrying nothing more than a sleeping bag and the courage to ask for help. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't finding shelter from the storm. Sometimes it's discovering that, even in our darkest seasons, there are still people willing to make room for someone else's hope. And once that happens, neither heart ever walks away quite the same again.